It is Pitch Talk special feature time. And we're going to focus on money in football, and you'll see why in a second. Qatar 2022 World Cup final will take place on December 18th. From March 19th, 2015, FIFA's executive committee has decided that the 2022 World Cup final will be held on December 18th. World Football's organising body confirmed on Thursday. Climax of the Winter World Cup will take place a week before Christmas. The final, set for a Sunday, is also Qatar's National Day, a celebration of independence. The 2022 World Cup is to be played in the winter to avoid the fierce heat of June and July, and it will be shortened to have a tournament over 28 days instead of the usual 32. UEFA had pushed for the final to be as late as December 23rd, but that option attracted opposition from FIFA members who feared it would cause problems for fans and players getting home in time for Christmas, as well as affecting club football's festive programme. The December 18th decision will allow traditional Boxing Day matches to take place in England. Back to that in a second. UEFA President Michel Platini said the decision was acceptable, but warned that FIFA must now rearrange the calendar to protect up to 4 international dates that might be affected. Now, a FIFA task force last month recommended that the 2022 tournament should take place in November, December, as we mentioned here a few weeks ago. And May, of course, was the preferred option. So it will kick off November 19th and it will be a 30-day affair. FIFA did talk about compressing it into a 28-day tournament, but it makes more sense to have the opening game on a Saturday, although the tournament in 2014 began on a Thursday. But in theory, you could actually play 4 games a day with staggered kickoff times for the first 2 matches of the group stage, and then have 2 groups a day with the games being played concurrently, like in Brazil last year. And you could wrap up the group stage in 12 days, but it is one of them was the size of Qatar actually helps, because you're never traveling more than an hour in any direction. So at least it will give players, it won't be this up and down climate thing. But the reason where money comes into this is because FIFA, from the 20th of March 2015, FIFA have confirmed that they will distribute £142 million to clubs for the release of their players during the 2018 and 2022 World Cups. So a total of $209 million, £142 million, will be distributed among the clubs releasing players to participate in the 2018 FIFA World Cup in Russia. And the same amount has actually been agreed for Qatar in 2022, so $142 million each, when it was only $40 million in 2010 and $70 million in 2014. So you can see how money kind of almost ends up ruling the day, really. And of course, we at Pitch Talk have had our problems with this kind of thing, but shifting over in terms of money in football, we're going to go from being very international to coming back to Italy, because AC Milan fans boycotted the San Siro in protest at the way the club was being run. Angry AC Milan supporters refused to attend Saturday's Serie A match against Cagliari in protest at the way the club was being run. The Rossoneri are currently 10th in Serie A and have just 3 wins to their name in 2015, with fans understandably angry at how their team are no longer giants in both the domestic game and in Europe. Curva Sud fan group encouraged fans to boycott the last game against Cagliari earlier in the week, and the Twitter hashtag named #SaveACMilan trended across Italy before the match. How many times have we made sacrifices for Milan? A statement on curvasudmilano.it said. How many times have we saved up to buy a new shirt to be able to go to the stadium to renew our season tickets? There's one thing that's been lacking, something that we want as Milan fans and lovers of these colours: clarity. Which is an interesting one, because this ties into the next point we're going to as well. We invite those who have already bought tickets and made travel arrangements to stay, if possible, outside the stadium. If this is impossible, we understand the inconvenience, as we were always the first to travel. To see our great love, we ask to at least not show banners and flags and refrain from cheering. Today, more than ever, the Rossoneri must show unity of purpose and make sure the proponents of this situation fulfill their responsibilities. Now, speaking of fulfilling responsibilities, it's the perfect segue, because from back in February 2015, we've been keeping tabs on the situation. cash-strapped Parma running out of time as match was postponed. They actually had to call off a recent Serie A visit of Udinese on safety grounds as their financial problems continue to threaten the club's future. Players and staff from the bottom of the table club have not been paid all season, and stewarding costs were unable to be met to stage the fixture. The club asked to play the match behind closed doors, but the Italian Football Federation ordered a postponement. Alessandro Lucarelli said, "Time is running out, we need facts, not words." Training on that Friday was also cancelled, with cash levels reported to be below 29,700 at the Stadio Ennio Tardini. Now, we've had a meeting with the president, and what's emerged is the difficulty in bringing the money to Italy. Captain Lucarelli continued. He has reiterated that he will try and give us some guarantees within the next 24 hours, but our patience has a limit. We are a united group, and we have given the club an ultimatum. Parma has already changed hands, had at that point in February of this year, 2015, had already changed hands twice in 2 months. So you can see the turmoil building. Dastrasso Holdings, a Cyprus-based conglomerate, took control in December and named Emir Kodra, a 29-year-old Albanian, as president. The club was sold again 2 weeks before February 20th. 2 weeks to Slovenian-based MAPI Group. So you can already see Parma are going the same way as Portsmouth. But that's a completely different story there. But Gianpietro Manetti, the latest president, said taking over, he was confident of sorting out the problems. They were deducted a point in December for failing to pay player wages dating back to November of 2013. Club president Tommaso Girardi and Pietro Leonardi were also fined $3,951 each. Parma finished 6th in the table last year but missed out on the Europa League for not meeting UEFA's club licensing criteria because of unpaid bills. Now, 3 days later, 23rd of February, it was one of them was Parma's situation was actually getting even worse, and they were very close. It was said that they were very close to going out of business at that point as well, where Italian football journalist Mina Rizzucchi believed Parma were very close to going out of business, and the club's latest financial results showed that they had a gross debt of £145 million. That's 197.4 million euros, and the Italian authorities set a bankruptcy hearing for the 19th of March. Hold on, we're going to get into that in a second because other clubs have actually reacted very helpfully. Sampdoria president Massimo Ferrero believed the other Italian top flight clubs should help Parma finish the season. Italian football cannot remain indifferent to the serenity, the professionalism and maturity with which the Parma players have faced an extremely difficult situation, he said. I congratulate the players and all the people who work at Parma. I consider them to be heroes. Now, at that time, Parma had two possibilities of avoiding liquidation and surviving until the end of the season, according to Milan-based journalist Luca Ferrato. One possibility would be that they would be handed a loan, believed to be about €5 million, £3.7 million, from the Italian Football Federation, FIGC, and Serie A to cover their outgoings until May. Alternatively, the city's mayor indicated the local authority could provide financial assistance until the summer. Now, fast forward into the 24th of February, the club was on the verge of bankruptcy at that point, and it was a case of their club shop closed and their computers were confiscated. That was on the 24th of February, and it was reported that staff walked out of the Parma store club shop at the Stadio Tardini, shutting down the merchandise shop, and a company that had been leasing the computers and printers to the club arrived at the Collecchio camp to confiscate the equipment for unpaid bills. Now, fast forward in a month to March 14th, Parma docked 2 points by the Italian FA for failing to pay players. So this is a second docking of points, because they already had been docked a point a few months ago as well. The cash-strapped players have not been paid all season, and the Crusaders have a debt, as mentioned, of £145 million. They're bottom of the league, 15 points from safety, and have already been docked a point last December, as I just mentioned. And they actually did return to action to earn a draw with Atalanta Bergamo after their two previous games were called off by the Italian Football Federation to allow the club time to solve its problems. But on the 19th of March 2015, the hammer blow. beleaguered Serie A side Parma have officially been declared bankrupt by an Italian court with estimated debts of €100 million, £72.3 million. Thursday's hearing in Parma lasted only 10 minutes in front of Judge Pietro Rogato and was attended by club officials Osvaldo Riccobene and Enrico Siciliano. Parma owner Gianpietro Manetti bought the club for €1 in February but was not present following his arrest. Yeah, it's a crazy situation. Along with 21 other people on Wednesday on charges of money laundering and embezzlement. I said in a group on Facebook that this situation is far from over. It's clearly, I thought Massimo Cellino was bad, but following the tribunal, Riccobene told reporters the club's creditors called for bankruptcy, which was accepted by the prosecutor of the Republic. We did not oppose the decision. So it's absolutely mad. But carrying on from the 19th of March 2015 as well, Parma can complete the Serie A season despite bankruptcy. Serie A club Parma have been declared bankrupt by a court in Italy, but will be allowed to see out the season. So even though they're bankrupt and they've been declared so on the 19th of March, it came out the same day that they are allowed to continue the season. Now, the club's debts are at nearly €75 million, £59 million. Gianpietro Manetti promised to clear the debts when he took over as chairman last month, but he was actually arrested on Wednesday, 18th of March, after being accused of involvement in a credit card scam. The Italian league has allocated €5 million, £3.6 million, so the league's bottom club can fulfill their fixtures. In the absence of Manetti, club officials Osvaldo Riccobene and Enrico Siciliano represented the club at the hearing that we just mentioned, that only lasted 10 minutes. So they're 16 points adrift of safety and have just had another 3-point deduction. Now, the reason why money connects this so well, Parma have barely got, they haven't, to coin a phrase, Parma haven't got a pot to pee in nor a window to throw it out of. And that's almost literal. Their club shop has been closed down and computers confiscated. They've got an owner. They've actually got an owner who has been arrested along with 21 other people last week on charges of money laundering and embezzlement. I mean, they've been docked 2 points for failing to pay players. They were docked a point in December for failing to pay players. Their club shop's gone. It's one of them ones. I mean, this Parma situation is insane. AC Milan, it makes the AC Milan fans look a bit stupid. It's like, oh, we're protesting and boycotting because we're not a European superpower anymore. You might want to look at Parma. Parma might not even have a club after the end of this Serie A season, which is sad. But you know what? The fact that they've been passed around, similar to Portsmouth, they're getting, in terms of ownership this season, they've been passed around more than chlamydia at a teenage party. It's one of them. And then, but then you look at the thing with Qatar, Qatar 2022, and FIFA paying clubs like £142 million for releasing players for each World Cup for 2018 and 2022, and that was only 40 million in 2010 and 70 million in 2014. So you're seeing that doubling. So there's clearly money floating around in football, but it's just amazing that the powers that be can let this situation with Parma get to how it's gotten to. But Parma have their cross to bear in this. I mean, it's just insane that a situation can get like that. I mean, it's like people are not learning from what happened with Portsmouth when they were getting passed around like this is past the parcel. And it's sad to see that. It's just sad to see that Parma, who were runners-up in Serie A in 1997, won the UEFA Cup in 95 and 99, and the 93 Cup Winners' Cup. They've had guys like Crespo, Asprilla, they've had some great players pass through that team.
Enrico Chiesa.
Exactly. I mean,
I think even Gianfranco Zola had a short stint there as well.
Briefly, yeah. I mean, it's one of them was. I remember growing up watching Football Italia in the mid to late night.
Buffon was there, Lilian Thuram was there.
Look at the team they had, and to see it go down like this is just, it's sad. It really is sad to see. Obviously, Parma, as I said, they have their cross to bear, and it's partly their own fault, maybe for basically letting that ownership get passed around a bit. But the buck has to stop somewhere, and I think this is the problem with Parma. The AC Milan fans, I think them boycotting is just hyperbole, just like the Arsenal fans in this Wenger out campaign. It's one of them ones. It's hyperbole. It's hyperbole, and it's actually a little cringeworthy to be perfectly frank. But with the Parma situation, it's insanity. But then you got FIFA proving that money rules the day by doubling the amount of compensation that they're paying to clubs for the 2018 and 2022 World Cups. It's insane. It is insane. I mean, that Parma situation is just such a source of consternation, and once again shows that if you don't run something properly and the bottom falls out, it's over. It will be difficult to recover from it, and I can't see Parma recovering because they've got so much debt behind them, and they literally can't operate. They've had 2 games postponed. They can't operate. So it's mad. I mean, Gezzie Fizzle, being that for years we did bill you as the resident Italian football expert, and you still are, of course. What's your view on the Qatar 2022 and Russia 2018, that thing, and also the AC Milan fans and the Parma situation?
Well, I'll start with the AC Milan fans. I think, as you say, when put into direct contrast with Parma fans and anyone associated with Parma, I think they are quite deluded. Obviously, in direct comparison, there's a lot of good going on at the moment. But having said that, what you also have to understand is they're used to much more from the team. They're also used to much better investment and the team generally performing better. So it's understandable in a way, because the other thing as well is it's not as if the fans being against what Silvio Berlusconi is doing in terms of running the club is anything new. This has been something that's been ongoing for several years, if not decades. So that part of it isn't new and is understandable. But as I say, I think the fact that you have a club like Parma with the history that they have, and I think for neutrals, they are a good club to support or to follow, because I know back in the days, mid-90s, when I first started to watch Italian football, they were one of my teams that I would earmark to watch along Inter Milan, and AC Milan as well. But I think for the club now to be where it's at, given their history, so on and so forth, it's a crying shame. It really is. And I think real fans and football fans everywhere will shed a tear for it, because of all the clubs that you would think would end up like that, Parma wouldn't have been on your list initially. So it is really, really sad that that's the case. But at the same time, I also think it's a necessary evil, because now, more than ever, it is pertinent that even though, as we say, football clubs are badly run businesses, that the house is in order. Because if the house is not in order financially, this is what happens to you. And it doesn't really matter who you are. It doesn't really matter how much history you got or how many sympathetic fans you have. If your house is not in order financially, this is what will happen to you. And it's going to be happening without discrimination. So, as I say, for me personally, it's a very sad day. But at the same time, you have to look at how the club has been run over the last few years, and even over the last few months, where we talk about how, the club was passed around like a hot potato. absolutely ridiculous in terms of ownership. I mean, what about the fit and proper persons test? I mean, if you can't be in charge of the club or keep the club for at least a year, I would say, if not 2 or 3, are you really a fit and proper person to own a football club? That's my question. You know, and I use that question universally to say, well, look, it's really, really, really not worth it in that regard. But moving and grooving onto the compensation payment, right? Where, as we say, it's doubled now. Absolutely ridiculous. Absolutely ridiculous. And that's going to clubs, right? Whereas most of the clubs that have all the internationals are the top clubs in their respective countries. What good does that do in terms of financial fair play? Does that actually help? No. But it goes to show that in terms of the driving force behind the big tournaments, it is money, in that the way that, you know, clubs will be compensated is to say, look, we know it's an inconvenience for you, but we will, you know, put this much money into the club, right? Which means that all other financial fair play rules, well, what's the point in that now? If we're just going to have a major tournament that's going to pump, you know, a certain amount of money into a club if they happen to have a certain amount of internationals. Absolutely no point in it whatsoever. Now that, you know, you might as well scrap that and just be done with it, I think. I think that is the safest bet, because anything else really is a waste. Really is a waste. And it just goes to show that, again, money is the real driving force. It's not about the love of the game here, right? Because how have compensations actually jumped so high? That's what I want to know. And the only other thing that I can think of as the reason why it's jumped so high is because if we look at it, right, Qatar and Russia and Ukraine, they are not desirable footballing locations, shall we say.
Yeah.
Right? They are not, in my honest opinion, the countries that should have won the bids.
Well, certain man them were getting kickbacks, it seemed. I mean, obviously we've been over this on a number of shows because of the whole corruption thing, and we've been looking at that. But yeah, you're right, it's not a desirable place to play football when it's played 50 degrees in the summer. That's why the World Cups had to be moved in the first place. I mean, I guess with Qatar 2022, the World Cup final being on December 18th, they're trying to make the best of a bad situation, but it shouldn't have been a bad situation in the first place, because they shouldn't have even got the World Cup in the first place.
Exactly. Exactly. And I think the way that, you know, FIFA are trying to compensate for this is by offering so much money.
Yeah.
Right? Because when you think about it, if only a couple of years ago, when we're talking about Brazil, even South Africa, I would say, right, out of all the big compensation that we've had, one of the biggest should have gone to South Africa. Why didn't that happen? Oh wait, actually, it was a pretty desirable location to go to, and they were okay with sorting everything out. Whereas, you know, as I say, Russia and Ukraine and Qatar, not so much. So I think we can see there that there's a big discrepancy and obviously imbalance when it comes to, you know, selecting nations to host these major events. And I'm not saying that we shouldn't go to other nations to kind of spread the World Cup around, if you will. And I'm not saying we go to the absolutely ridiculous multi-country, multi-city idea either.
Which I think is going to happen for the the Euro 2020 roadshow. They're gonna. I think UEFA are actually gonna go down with that roadshow idea.
But anyway, having said that, right, I still think the only reason why this is happening, the only reason why the World Cup will go forward in terms of players participating, is to do with the money. And I think that is the biggest disappointment in football for me currently right now. Yeah. Because really and truthfully, anytime you get to go and represent your country, never mind the World Cup, right, should be an honour. Shouldn't be about money. As a matter of fact, I don't even believe players should get paid for that.
No, definitely not.
Right? In the sense of whatever monies was going to go to the team, you know what? Why not put it towards grassroots?
Exactly.
That would be my suggestion.
Exactly.
Why not put it towards grassroots in every country? Because my question to them is this: where do you think the next set of football stars, if not in this generation, in the next 2 or 3 generations, are going to come from?
But the sad thing is, though, football is very much dog eat dog, and everyone's thinking short term. Everyone's thinking a year or two ahead, when people should be thinking 5 to 10 years ahead. I mean, obviously with Qatar 2022, it's not actually that far away. And all right, yeah, it does give. I mean, said best of a bad situation. All right, fine. At least the bloody World Cup final is not going to be on December 23rd, which was the original date pitched. At least it's not that, because that would have been even worse. But best of a bad situation, I guess you've got to make it. But I said it shouldn't have been that bad a situation anyway. But it's just one of them ones. If you got the money, honey, I got the time. Or to coin that phrase, or it'd be a case of well, if you got the money, you have the stroke, you have control. He who has the money has the power. So, and he who has the power has the money. That's what it looks like in football currently to me.
And controls the spice of football. You know, it just needs to be said. I think this is the point where, you know, I personally think that it's getting ridiculous, absolutely ridiculous. You know, in the sense of this is the only thing that is driving this tournament. This is the only thing that's making it carry any water or bear any weight. Take the money out of it, in the sense of there was obviously a lot of money put into the bid to get it in the first place, right? Whether legally or illegally, right? And now, of course, there's so much money going into making sure that the players turn up. I don't know. I really don't know.
It's insanity. It is legitimate insanity. I mean, I think Wayne Schumann, you wanted to jump in, and welcome to the show, by the way.
Yeah, cheers. I just want to say that I still don't think it should have been held out there, or Russia. I mean, England should have got one of the World Cups, and when I watched the programme of it, they said the Black Owl went round to every stadium in England, and he said to Beckham and Prince William that we will get one of the World Cups, and then obviously at the last minute, Russia got 2018 and Qatar got the other one. They said that the Russian president didn't even fly out. Like, he basically knew that he had already won it. I mean, everyone knows that World Cup bids were rigged from the start. And to say it's just the money, you know, they handed them a lot of money, and obviously at the moment they can't prove it, but everyone knows it. But I think it was just like, Qatar's just a bit of a, I don't know, it's just a weird place to hold a World Cup. I mean, they're not really a big football nation. I don't even think they've got any leagues out there, have they?
In Qatar, no, I don't think so. But in Russia, they do, obviously. But
yeah, Russia. But I mean, in Qatar as well. I mean, you know, with the fans and that, I mean, obviously, it's the laws and everything out there are so strict. I mean, basically, they're already saying that the fans and that ain't really going to be able to leave their complex or their hotels and that. So, you know, because of safety issues as well. I mean, obviously, it being by the Middle East and that, I just think that it's a bit of a stupid place to hold the World Cup. Not just because of football, but what's going on in the world today as well. And I don't know. I mean, I don't think there's going to be a lot of fans going out there. I don't think England are going to have a big sport out there. And I don't think there'll be a lot of fans that will travel out there.
I mean, there's a couple of good points in there, and at the end of the day, it'd be a case of fans need to really be voting with their feet. I mean, it is kind of cutting off your nose to spite your face if England get there and they've got no fans there because the fans are boycotting because of what's happening with the powers that be. But sometimes sacrifices have to be made.
Yeah, and I mean, with Russia, it's great having the World Cup, you know, sort of in Europe or whatever. But I mean, I was watching when you watch the programme of that, and I just thought, how are they going to hold it out there? It's like Russia there's a lot of people out there are still living in, like, you know, the 80s or like in the 70s. They're such a racist country, and when you watch their football matches and the chants they do to players and that, it's just disgusting. And I think, you know, when players and fans travelling out there, they've already said like they've got to keep an eye on their safety and everything. I just think there's some countries, like before they hold tournaments there, they should look into what that country is.
Well, you can't. Well, the thing is, you can't. Before we bring Jamie in, you can't tar everyone with the same brush. But also, the fact of the matter is, every for both World Cup bids, every country was required to submit. And this, we've gone over this before, where it's one of them was countries were required to submit 200-page dossiers, saying, right, this is what we're going to do, this is what we've got, this is what we need to build, all of that kind of stuff, how they're going to do it, basically. But it seems like in terms of Qatar, FIFA didn't even bother reading it. No. So that's the thing.
I think that's what's annoyed a lot of people, and what's annoying me as well is that we're meant to be the home nation of football. You know, us and basically Brazil are like two top nations for football, and we haven't had a World Cup since '66. We haven't had a major tournament since Euro '96. And we've got the stadium, we've got the fan base. Why ain't they giving us a tournament? Why ain't FIFA giving us one? And I know they were on about, was it Euro 20? They were on about separating like the quarterfinals of Wembley, the semi-finals and the final. They were on about.
Well, we mentioned. I think about a year or two ago that they were going to do a road show and basically take it around Europe.
Now that's good. I like the idea of that, separating it all around Europe. But at the same time, it's like, why can't we have a tournament again? I mean, Euro '96, I was a kid when that happened. I would love another tournament over it.
Yeah, no, same here. I mean, but let's not do it. Let's not dwell on that because we look at obviously solution driven, looking at that. But I mean, Jamie Bailey, you wanted to come in on this as well, didn't you?
Yeah, my situation with this whole with the World Cup bids, Parma. Everything just been spoken about with the World Cup bids. Until Sepp Blatter, like I said in the chat, until Sepp Blatter goes, football's gonna die. That's my opinion. In terms of the Parma issue, again, until FIFA actually come up with some decent rules, and until Sepp Blatter goes, football's gonna die. That's my opinion. And when we go back to this whole Qatar thing, where they said that they were going to build stadiums with aircon in. Again, until Sepp Blatter goes, football is going to die. That is my opinion.
Well, it's I don't know. I mean, I think that's a bit of kind of a CWO thing with in terms of Cynic's world order. So we'll leave that aside. But I think it's a case of, as I said, with the Qatar 2022 situation, it's a case of making. They're trying to now make basically the best of a bad situation. But as said, as said, it shouldn't have come to that situation in the damn first place. With the Parma thing, again, similar things with the Parma thing. It shouldn't have been allowed to get that far in terms of a situation, whether it be the powers that be or whoever was running Parma at the time that this revolving door of ownership started. But also we've got to look at how can we fix these situations. I mean, Qatar 2022, that's pretty much now a foregone conclusion. Same with Russia 2018, that's a foregone conclusion. So I don't think those really can be fixed. As said, they're just making the best of a bad situation. With at least with Qatar 2022, with the Parma thing, that's pretty much beyond repair. Sadly, it seems like that's beyond repair. AC Milan, far from beyond repair. It's like their fans are just boycotting because they're not a European superpower, and they're really kind of I don't want to use the word whinging, but they're basically complaining about how the club has been run, which is fair because we wouldn't want AC Milan to end up like Parma as well. But at least their fans are seeing it quite early and railing up against it quite early, relatively speaking. But it's one of them was we really don't want to. I said I wouldn't want to see AC Milan go the way that Parma's gone. I wouldn't wish that on any club. But it seems like because football has such narrow margins, and the financial risk and reward are both so high, and there's such a chasm between the two. I think we're going to see more clubs. We're going to end up seeing more clubs going down these routes of leveraging their long-term future just for short-term gains. And for me, that's what it partially comes down to: leveraging your long-term future against short-term gains, and going with we'll win these trophies here now for the next couple of seasons, and then we'll deal with the backlash later. No, you've got to have a contingency plan. You've got to have a solid business plan to be able to move into the future. And I said with the future, I'm not just talking 2-3 years, I'm talking 5 to 10 years. And even 5 to 10 years isn't really long term, it's kind of medium term, really. So it's one of them.